Hello everyone, welcome back. Time for another bonus stream. Yeah, we'll skip the ads for this beginning part, but just know that if you want to support my work and support the game, all the ways you could do so are linked below, and there's also a Discord link below if you want to join that. So would love to have you there. We'll be streaming for maybe an hour and a half or a couple hours this afternoon. I do have somewhere to be later. But while I have downtime, I figured we'll do some streaming here. Finish up one or two things with respect to the tutorial, and then, yeah, maybe, I mean, we've got some other stuff in the to-do list here. Might go and try to fix this bug. That might be an interesting to do. Interesting thing to do. So yeah, but before I get into it, hello, Clickertail, welcome back. Sorry, Wooius, you were not first. Welcome, welcome. Wildly Spoiled. Hello, I'm Jacob. Welcome, welcome. Bonus stream. Hello, Emerson. Welcome back. Hello, Ninja Link. It's been a lifetime. Yes, it feels like that sometimes. What is a good time to quit full-time and go... Quit full-time and go full-time indie dev? Oh, excuse me. Well, I'm not really the best person to ask about this. Oh, welcome back to the stream, by the way, Evan. I would say, at least from my perspective, you probably shouldn't quit your day job until you've proven that you can make money from selling games, and until you have enough money to fund yourself while you're doing that. You also have to weigh the likelihood of like being able to get another job after you know, if you fail, right? So if you have a job, for example, in an industry where the job market is very tight and very competitive, that may factor into your decision, because maybe it won't be as easy to get that same job after you try the indie dev thing. So there's a number of considerations to be made. I can't really tell you what would work for your personal situation, but those are the general considerations that I make. So hopefully that helps. Hello, Chris. Good afternoon. Welcome back. Probably to make good game jams while I'm a full-time job. Yeah, I would focus on maybe developing your game development skill while you're working. Ideally, you should be able to release a game while you're working as well. And if that game sells well, and you've proven that you can do it, then it becomes a little bit of a safer decision. That's my assessment anyway. Hello. Defected, welcome, welcome. How close we are to second... I don't know what that word is. Do you want to rephrase that? Okay. So we have this one issue right now. Can sequence break by backtracking to start when combat 2 is the state? So... yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna fix that. Let me check my run map. Oops. No, run manager. Run manager. Okay, I might want to change this signal, which might be a little bit of a problem. But let me just recreate the bug for you here. So I go to start, play the tutorial. Inquisition is aware of your presence. You go here. If I do this. Actually, there might be a number of bugs related to this. If I go here, yeah, so that disappears. Yep. So yeah, sequence breaking on travel entered. So I think the way to fix this is going to be, maybe I should emit the current run map node here. Emit signal travel entered. Run map node to map node. So we got the map node here. I think this is, yeah, that's ref counted, so I can put that in a signal. Now I have to look for every place where travel entered is referenced, and it looks like that's only in 2 places. Run map node here, on travel entered. We'll put that there, and then the tutorial guide here, run map node, on travel entered. Okay. So if we're in the node state post nodes, that's okay. State notoriety, that's okay. State pre-combat 2. Trail enter. Wait a minute. State pre-combat 2. Right. 2 map node is equal to tutorial context to run map nodes 3. I think that's right. So now that I have the reference to the node that we're visiting, I should be able to prevent that sequence breaking from happening by doing some extra checks. So let's try this again. We'll go here. Okay. Grab that. Alchemize these things. Ooh, a legendary wyvern hatchling. I just realized something. Oh, shoot. That didn't work either. This is wrong. This needs to be 2. I just realized that if the player takes 2 legendary cards, that's going to break. The player's going to be unable to do alchemy if they get 2 legendary cards. Okay. Player will be unable to do alchemy if they get 2 legendary cards. Okay, well that's a weird one, but we'll have to fix that as well. Anyway, back to here. It's time for game dev once again. Yes, indeed. Hello, Jackie Daytona. Welcome. Slay the Spire like Act 2 for Alchemortis. Yeah, I guess I don't understand what you're asking still. The acts for Alchemortis are kind of built into the same map. So you go through all the different regions and you face 3 different bosses. It's just all part of one map. But you could say that there's 3 acts or 3 regions. Speaking of full-time jobs, about to enter a series of meetings, so I'll be missing the stream and living in max lurk mode, living vicariously. That's all right. That's totally fine. I hope your meetings go well. Skelly schmoovin'. Half the time I don't know what bug is it. Yeah. Can the player skip alchemy in tutorial mode? They cannot, no. You have to do alchemy. Okay, so that works now. And then we can do this. Tuning in from the gym. Hello, Jack. Welcome back. Always good to see you. Okay. Some locations grant upgrades to your power. Visit either the enchantment. Oh. Oh, I think that was the notoriety one. Yeah. Okay, I think that's fine. I think that sequencing is fine. It's okay if the player breaks it a little bit. I just don't want it to be so broken that it gets like soft locked or whatever. But if the player wants to do things a little bit out of order or ignore certain things, I don't want to just like put the tutorial entirely on rails, but I think that's all right. And here's the cat again, ready to be annoying once more. He got his afternoon nap during my stream downtime, and so now he's ready to go again. Hello. Hi. Do you have something to say? Tell the people what's on your mind. Tell them what's on your mind. Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, now you're shy? Now you don't want to speak? Huh? Now you don't want to speak? Who's the chunky boy? Are you a chunky boy? Okay. Okay, so that works pretty well, I think. Can't complain about that. We can go right back into the game here, into the normal game. Cool. All right, so I think that fixes that issue. The one thing that I need to do is I probably need to... Why did all of this change? Oh, this went from tabs to spaces. Am I using spaces by default everywhere? I am. Why was that tabs to begin with? And why did it change all of a sudden? That's curious. Well, I guess that's all right. I guess I don't have any problems with that. Okay, fix tutorial sequence issues. Okay, so now let's figure out, let's just disable legendary outputs for the alchemy container here. So we have the legendary chance. Where is that? Legendary chance. Am I in the right spot? Oh, alchemy manager. Where's that even used, actually? Alchemy manager is here. Okay. And I can actually get this. Okay, so I could get the alchemy manager. So what I can do actually is I can private bool disable legendary outputs. Oh. Can I do this? Yes, I can. So if we have a guaranteed legendary or disable legendary outputs is not set and we're less than legendary chance. So now what I could do is I could just add a public method. Public void. What is going on? Disable legendary outputs. Okay. So now in my tutorial guide, what I will do is I will do in here this. What is happening? Why is my code getting rewritten? Okay, we're gonna just reload everything. Sometimes VS Code acts up, Copilot acts up. This.get alchemy manager .disable legendary outputs. Okay, so now just to test that, what I'm going to do is set this legendary chance to 1, which would guarantee legendaries every time in a normal situation, but in the tutorial, I should not get any. Cat. Spaces versus tabs war starts now. Cat be schmoovin'. Can you get more than one legendary from one alchemy? You can, yeah. The legendary chance is on a per card basis. So 3% chance each time there's an output for it to be legendary. I may end up tweaking that, but we'll see. Okay. So now we can do alchemy. So I've got a 100% alchemy chance, or a legendary chance, and I didn't get any legendaries. Okay, so we could be relatively certain that that's working. So that is one situation where it could have soft locked the player, and the player would not have been able to progress in the tutorial. So we'll just disable that, and I don't really want to spoil that anyway in the tutorial. It would be kind of weird to get a legendary card in the tutorial. We'll leave that special output for when the player is actually playing the game. Okay, so that should be good, and then that fixes that issue. Cool. Alrighty then. So with that, all of the things that I need to do for the tutorial are done. Now, there are still some improvements that I could make to it. However, I think this is the moment where I'm ready to merge this back into my master branch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to close this actually because I don't think Godot likes it very much when you change a lot of files at once. So we're just going to, I'm going to merge this on my other screen here. How many commits did we have? 50 commits. That tutorial took 50 commits and there were 66 file changes. Goodness gracious. All right, rebase and merge. All right, and then I go to the master here. Bring this back up. Okay, we got that all going. Reopen Alchemortis here. Delete that branch. Git fetch prune. All right, and just make sure everything works as expected. Very cool. All right. Looking good. And I can also quit to the menu here, go back to start. Excellent. All right. I have some errors here though. What is this? Handle is not initialized. I don't know what that is. We'll have to address that later, but we can move this giant in progress card over to done. Oh gosh. All right, it does not like that. Can I move this? Move to list. Done. Okay. That works a little bit better than drag and drop. Cool. Alrighty. Feels good to have that. I mean, it's not done. There's some stuff I want to do still, but any advice for a programmer who over abstracts at the very beginning? Yeah, follow the principle of Yagni. You aren't going to need it. Only build what you know you need and then refactor as the system gains complexity. Like, let your game's needs inform how complex or abstract your code needs to be. Now, there are exceptions to this, right? Like, if you know your game is going to be very inventory heavy, then maybe spending time up front, like creating a very nice and sophisticated inventory system, is a good idea. And it certainly should be the case that you should leave your code open for extensibility. Like, you shouldn't just, you know, spaghettify your code either. But yeah, like, over engineering is largely just a problem of trying to solve problems before you have them. So let the problems present themselves first, and then fix your code incrementally to address those problems as they come up. That would be my advice. I'm still undecided between spaces and tabs. Are there actually any arguments for or against that, or is it entirely based on preference? I think the main argument for spaces is that spaces are like a uniform, they're a uniform size, but tabs can be different sizes or something like that. I don't really know. I got into the habit of using spaces when I was doing, as a professional software engineer, we use spaces for all of our white space. Just a habit I got into. I don't think there's really too much of a difference, but I don't think it matters that much. I think the consistency is the only thing that matters. If you're in Godot and GDScript, the recommendation is tabs. Well, yes, because GDScript is white space sensitive, and tabs are like tabs and returns are actually important to the parsing of the language. What happens if you change a script on branch and change it on the other branch and then commit? You will get a merge conflict. If you try to merge those, like, you can change the file separately on both branches, but when you try to reconcile the branches together, you'll probably, I mean, sometimes you won't get a merge conflict, but sometimes you will. And then what you need to do is you need to decide whose changes you accept. In a lot of cases, especially if you're working on a team, it's not clear which changes you need to accept. And so you need to do like a third piece of work to like glue those pieces together. I found that abstraction works best when it arrives naturally. Yeah, spaghetti's good. You're welcome, Tatiyama, by the way. Welcome to the stream. Merge, I mean. Yeah. Hello, Luca. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you again. Welcome back to the stream. You could use spaces in GDScript, but Godot's Foundation recommends tabs. Oh, okay, interesting. I did not know spaces were officially supported. Okay, so... let's see if we can figure out this bug. This one has been noodling around in my head. So, yeah. So I'm going to do a couple of things here. So this bug is the map tooltips, the map node tooltips that you hover over. Okay, we don't need any of this anymore. So let's go ahead and go game debug. This skip tutorial doesn't do anything anymore, so I'm actually going to delete this. So delete skip tutorial. And then we're going to go to game debug. Is skip tutorial enabled? We'll get rid of that. Skip tutorial here, get rid of that. And then we'll go here and we'll turn on skip menu. So the problem here is that if I go to a booster here, and I take those cards and I put my mouse here. Oh, I was close. How am I going to... maybe it's better... yeah, I don't know exactly how to reproduce this, but basically, when the clickable controls get re-enabled... let me show you a good example of this. So if I go to my enchant here, when the tentacles come up, they're disabled by default, so I can't click them. And then they become enabled when they pop in. Actually, is that true? I think it is. So anyway, when a clickable control gets re-enabled from being disabled, it will do a check down here to see if the mouse is inside the position, and then it will trigger various mouse enter, mouse exited, and so on and so forth. So for instance, if I have a mouse input lock that goes to 0 from 1, so an input lock is just what code has a lock on this, meaning that it's disabled, and a clickable control can be disabled multiple times, and that just increments the lock counter. So as long as the lock counter is greater than 0, the clickable control can't be clicked. But when that when that input lock value gets to 0, that means that the control is re-enabled. The problem is, if I'm already hovering over that control when it becomes re-enabled, it won't be highlighted immediately until I move my mouse. You can say, well, that's a very minor thing, but it does make a difference in the perception of like the functionality of the game. That can feel broken when it's like, I'm already hovering this, why is it not highlighting, right? So my workaround for that was just to basically check if the mouse is still contained within the area when it gets re-enabled. The problem though is that this is just doing a check that the mouse is inside of the rectangular area, but it's not considering the fact that there could be another control on top of it that is disabled. So what can happen is, in the map node tooltip example, if I just skip this, in the map node tooltip here, this could get enabled. So while this dimmer is over top of the screen, for instance, this could get enabled because it detects my mouse is inside of it. But because it's not detecting any other mouse events, it doesn't know when the mouse leaves the area, and so it can't turn the tooltip back off. And so I just end up with a tooltip that gets stuck as visible. So I haven't really done any research. So I think one approach that I want to try is sending an event to this clickable control, but I'd have to send the event through the tree. So what I may do, and I don't want to do that 300 times or however many nodes I have. So what I might do is I might just, as a test here, and I actually don't really know how to handle this, but public static void propagate mouse motion. Okay, so then I can do input dot propagate. Nope. I actually don't know how to do this. Azir, stop. Stop. Propagate input event. Maybe it's on the viewport. Let's take a look. Push input. Triggers given event in this viewport. This can be used to pass an input event between viewports or to locally apply inputs that were sent over the network. In local coordinates as embedders coordinates. While this method serves parse input event, it does not remap the specific event based on the project settings. Calling this method will propagate calls to child nodes for the following methods in order. Node input, GUI input. Okay. How am I going to test this? I have no idea how to set up a test condition for this. Can I create a test scene? How easy would this be? So we'll do this. We'll add the child node, clickable control. We'll just put this here. I'm just going to save this in scenes, debug, clickable control. We're going to set up a minimal test here. And then we're going to add a margin container here, which has, just covers this. And this is going to have the mouse input of stop. So this should be intercepting any events. For this clickable control. Or actually, I think it needs to be... No, I think that's right. So this clickable control here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this not to editor only. And then let's create a debug clickable control. Okay. Scripts, debug clickable control. Okay. I don't really care about the namespace. So let's get a reference to the clickable control. Okay, so then in the ready method here, what I will do is I will... Why are you saying to wire nodes again? Oh my goodness. Okay, so clickable control dot disable or add mouse, add input lock here. We're going to do get tree dot create timer. We'll do 2 seconds. Dot timeout plus equals clickable control and remove input lock. And then what I will do is I will do clickable control dot mouse dot hover entered plus equals on, well, I guess I don't need to do that. I'll just do this. gd.print hover entered. Alrighty. I guess we'll just keep this as is. So if I run this now, what I should see is that I do this, and I should see a hover entered there. Now the thing is, I shouldn't see a hover exited if I also hook into that. So if I do clickable control, hover exited. Okay. So this should be a good demonstration of the problem. So I run this. Put my mouse in here. And then if I remove my mouse, you can see there's no hover exited signal, and there's also no hover entered again. when I move the mouse inside of it. That's because this margin container is taking that space. So the problem is when the clickable control becomes re-enabled and my mouse is inside of it, it's triggering the hover entered, but because it's no longer receiving any mouse events, it doesn't trigger any other events there. Okay, so we've got our very basic test system up. So that works. Now it's a matter of fixing it. And what I could do is I could do get viewport. Viewport. How do I do the get viewport here? Oh, instance.getViewport.push push input. New input event mouse motion. And then in local coords, I don't know. Position, instance.getViewport, get mouse position. I actually don't know which position I'm supposed to use. This is going to be a good question. Mouse motion. Okay, this is an input event mouse position. So I can set global position here. I guess we're just going to figure out if that works. Do I need to set anything else? Pressure, relative, screen velocity, tilt velocity, egads. Well, we'll just try that. I have no idea if that's going to work. But what I can do in here now is in my clickable control, instead of using this contains mouse, this is not right either. Is hovered. Probably want to use is hovered there instead. On input enabled. I probably shouldn't be using this. Okay, I think I can maybe simplify this. If was zero is hovered. So this is hovered is not going to work. Game events propagate mouse position. I don't know. We're gonna have to figure this out. Propagate mouse motion. Hello, Scorpio Dev. Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Hello, V. How was everybody's week? It was good. It was good. How are you doing? What you could do is have it work like normal, but just add an if check to see if a certain menu is enabled or not. So that the way the mouse events still work normal, but the node won't do anything. That's what I would have done it. The problem is, how do I know all of the menus that could appear over the node, right? That is going to become a lot of spaghettification very, very quickly. And that's why I'm trying to rely as much as possible on the default behavior of the Godot input system, because the Godot input system is very predictable. And so I've spent a lot of time just making sure that my code is using that predictability to make certain assumptions. So for instance, if I'm listening for a mouse enter and mouse exited, that's just going through the Godot input system. If there happens to be a control over top of that that is intercepting mouse events, then that control is intercepting mouse events for a reason. So in the case of like my dimmer rect, it's blocking all inputs on the map by just intercepting all of those input events. And because it processes those inputs first, none of those inputs get to the map. It would be a lot more messy to have to check in each node whether there is possibly, maybe, a menu in the way that could block those input events. Much easier just to hook into the Godot input system and use that. All right, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. So I shouldn't see hover entered here. No hover entered. So now if I reverse the direction of these things, let's see if I get the hover entered here. I got hover entered. Okay. Interesting. Input disabled. Yeah. So is that working? I don't want the game events propagate mouse motion to be here. I mean, I guess I could. But what I'm gonna do, I think, is... Well, let's not worry about that just yet. So that is working. I'm surprised that worked as easily as it did. I'm actually shocked that that worked as easily as it did. Now, I wonder, let me just gd.print. I want to see how many times this is actually being done. Propagating mouse motion. So I'm glad, the thing that I wasn't sure of is if the input mouse motion was going to trigger the mouse exit and mouse entered signals, but it is doing that. So that's good. But I want to see how many times that's being propagated if I go into the map, for instance. I wonder if it's going to be done for every single node. Propagating mouse motion. So that's not an unreasonable number of input events to be propagating through the tree. So if I go here, so basically any node that I can click on is going to be propagating that event. And that could get a little bit unwieldy. It probably wouldn't matter. I mean, 300 times is, you know, not that big of a deal. It would be like a max of 300 times, but let's see. Yeah, so we've got all these mouse motion events. So what I can do, perhaps, is I can do private bool is propagating mouse motion, something like that. We can make this a static variable. We could do if is propagating mouse motion return. And then we can do callable.from. This is propagating mouse motion equals false. So we propagate the mouse motion. We set is propagating mouse motion equals is true. And then we call this deferred to reset it. And so what I should get now is I should basically only see 1 or 2 prints of this, depending on how many things are being re-enabled on the screen. What's the issue again? The issue is that, I don't know how to describe it succinctly. Basically, I'm disabling controls, but when they become re-enabled, I want to detect if the mouse is inside of that area, that clickable area. But that has to account for any other control nodes which may be on top of it and intercepting the event. So the way that I was doing it before is I was just doing a check to see if the mouse was in the rectangular area, but that was ignoring if there was something else on the screen that was covering the clickable element such that the input event would have been intercepted. And that was creating an issue where I was getting tooltips that were stuck. Like, because they were being shown, because the mouse was detected inside the clickable area, but there was another node intercepting all future mouse motion events, meaning that that tooltip was never being cleared because the mouse exited was never being detected. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, oh well. Okay, so we only got one propagating mouse motion there. So that's good. What I should be able to do now is I should be able to just test this. So if I put my mouse here, that did not work the way that I wanted it to. I don't think anyway. If I go here and I put my mouse, propagating mouse motion. So that didn't work. That didn't work in this case. So maybe it's not working. Yeah, it's definitely not working. Why was it working? So my mouse is over top of this booster here, and it should be highlighted as soon as it's enabled, but it's not working. So that propagation of the mouse motion. Oh, you know what, actually? I think I know why. Because the input has not been enabled yet. Right. So I actually think I need to do the whole thing in a callable. So we do this, put this in here. Okay, let's see if that works. Bonus stream, what's up? What's the real plan? How's it going? It's going good. We're fixing a bug that's very tricky. Hello, it's Ramsey. A homeless woman asked if she could have some of my soda, and I said yes, and she took my whole 2-liter bottle. Oh, well. I guess she needed it more than you did. Hello, Ben. Welcome to the stream. Is Godot capable of recreating games like V-Rising with the same level of visuals, in your opinion? Probably. I mean, probably not. But, I don't know. There is a guy making Road to Vostok that looks very impressive. That's probably the best example of, like, graphical fidelity in Godot, but the thing is that game still looks like the standalone Daisy from 2013. So you know. But I'm not a 3D expert, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. But welcome back to the stream, Bomba Dom. Bomb Dom. Hello, 4DAO. I've been really enjoying your videos learning Godot. Curious, why did you choose C# over GDScript? It's personal preference, that's it. I've been waiting like a million years for this guy to talk about my soda. And you'll wait a million more if necessary. Okay, let's see if this works. So I'm doing everything in a deferred fashion, and it still doesn't work. Okay, so maybe my mouse position is not correct. Let me just do a quick Google search. How to propagate mouse motion event Godot 4. All right, let's see. I'll do push. Let's do push mouse motion event Godot 4. Also set the local position for consistency. I don't think this is going to work, but viewport.get mouse position. Why does it work in my debug example, but it doesn't work elsewhere? Oh, maybe it's not working in my debug example, actually. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do instead. Probably because I'm moving the mouse before I check the output here. So let me make this a little bit more apparent when the hover entered is fired. So hover entered, we're going to do add child new color rect. Color is equal to colors.red. So we should see a red square appear in the corner when that hover entered is detected. So maybe this actually isn't working the way I thought it was. Oops, ran the wrong scene. So no red square until I move the mouse, and still no red square. What in the heck, man? I guess I should set a size on it. Vector 2.1 times 16. Okay. So yeah, it doesn't show up until I actually move the mouse. So it's not, the mouse propagation is not actually working. So that's good. I have this tiny test scene that I can use instead of going through the game. Okay, so remove input lock. This is propagating, let's see, attempted to remove input lock. So mouse input locks, propagate mouse motion. I suppose I should just make sure that this is working. Let's just launch this debug. Oh, I want to do shoot. Well, I guess this will make it work. Okay, so that is being called. All right. All right, so, now I don't know why that's not working. So is it not working because maybe if I just do a vector 2.0? No, that's not going to work either. But how am I going to do this? Started the wrong scene again. This one's going to be a head scratcher. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's add some more logging in here. So input enabled. So what I should be able to do is I should say, I'll put this print propagating mouse motion inside of the call deferred. And then what I'll do is I will print inside the clickable control on input enabled. Probably don't want this line. Okay, mouse filter, let's do gd.print enabling input. So I should see the input being enabled before I propagate that mouse motion. So that should be the order of events. Did it a wrong scene again. Enabling input, propagating mouse motion, hover entered, hover exited. Why is it calling enable input twice? That doesn't seem right. Is it printing on input enabled immediately when it starts? Yes. Okay. So that would explain that. Okay, that makes sense. Start clickable tween. So wait, that means that start clickable tween is happening on input enabled. We're diving into the adventures of the Godot input system. So I should see one input enabled now. Yeah, one input enabled. It's propagating the mouse motion after it, and then, but it doesn't. Okay, so maybe. How does the mouse enter work? Maybe I can figure that out. Mouse entered. That does not help. I don't know if the mouse entered is triggering based off of input event mouse motion. Right? Or maybe it has to be mouse motion, right? Relative is 0 approx. Oh, I did it again. Press the wrong button. Okay, so that doesn't work. How am I going to do this, everybody? Let's see. Well, let's look at what other properties I have. Mouse motion. Okay, let's try this. Let's do vector 2.0 for both of these. And then let's move this clickable control over into the left corner here. Let's see what that does. Oh, that worked. Okay. So we'll go back to viewport. Get mouse position. Let's try it again. Ah, wrong button. Interesting. What happens if I do... So I think it's the position that's the problem. Vector 2.1 times 8. What is that going to do? Didn't do anything. Let me print the viewport. Oh my gosh, viewport. Get mouse position. Print that there. Okay. $102.61. 102. Yeah, so that's squarely in the square. Why did it work at 0, 0? I don't understand this. Oops. Script. Let's see. Position. Returns the mouse's position in the viewport this node is in using the coordinate system of this viewport. When received in control GUI input, returns the mouse's position in the control using the local coordinate system of the control. Is that being changed for me under the hood? I don't understand how this position is supposed to change to each control's local coordinate system. I don't know how I'm supposed to do that. So unless that's being changed under the hood as it propagates through the tree, that doesn't make any sense. How am I supposed to get every single control and get their local positions and transform that point? What happens if I set these both to vector 2.0 again? But I leave the control where it is. We're in deep Godot territory here. Okay, that didn't work either. Huh. Interesting. Did I try this combination? Viewport.get mouse position. Let's see. But it works if I do this. Huh, that's baffling. Let's get rid of all those properties and keep it at the top left here. See if that works still. I am kind of stumped. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with these position values. Let's move this a little bit off the left corner. Now it doesn't work. Let me get rid of the margin container. Okay, let's put this over here now. That doesn't work either. What in the heck? I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Maybe I can't take this approach because I don't have the right information. Interesting. Let me try another variation of my search. How to push mouse motion event to GUI input. Godot 4. See, I don't want to have to push it to every single control. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, there's going to be no resources available for this. Let's see if, I don't know. Maybe the AI can help me. Maybe Claude can help. Let's see. How would I push this input event mouse motion to all control nodes, their GUI input functions, given I don't have a list of all the controls and don't know what the relative position is for the controls coordinate system? According to input event mouse motion docs in Godot, this is not going to work, but we're going to try it. Okay, so when you use, again, we don't know if this is true, the AI could be making stuff up. When you use viewport push event, Godot's input system automatically handles the coordinate transformation as the event propagates through the scene tree. Each control node that receives the event is GUI input, and will have the position automatically transformed to its local coordinate system. However, you should set position instead of global position when creating the event. Okay, position. My mouse positions get mouse position. Okay. You push the event with position set to the viewport coordinates. Godot's input system propagates the event through the scene tree. As each control node receives the event in GUI input, Godot automatically transforms position from viewport coordinates to that control's local coordinate system using blah blah blah. Each control sees the mouse position value relative to itself. You don't need to manually find all control nodes, calculate all relative positions yourself. Create separate events for each control. Okay, well, let's see if it's lying to me. That would be amazing if it like nailed it, but I highly doubt that. It does not work. It works when it's in the top left. What happens if I move this here, then move my mouse over here? Okay, that doesn't work. What if I make this overlapping where it would be if it was a 0, 0 position? That doesn't work either. What if I do this? That doesn't work either. What if I do this? That doesn't work either. What in the heck is going on? Why does it only work if it's in the top left of the screen? Where even is the viewport? Is the viewport on the window? Oh, window is a viewport. Okay. Huh. Is there any reason you're manually constructing a new input event instead of propagating the existing mouse motion event? I don't have an existing mouse motion event. Because the thing that I'm trying to solve is the controls are switching from a disabled state to an enabled state. And I need to detect if the mouse is over those elements when they get re-enabled. So I don't have any mouse events to work with because they're just coming out of a disabled state. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to propagate a mouse motion event through the tree such that it will automatically update the hover state of everything that can be hovered as soon as those are re-enabled, right? 99% chance of lying, yeah. But for some reason, it's not working. So I have the control that's in question aligned to the 0, position, and this code works flawlessly for propagating the event. However, if it is moved off the origin, it no longer detects this input. That is very, very, very strange to me. Why is that not working? Thought you were trying to propagate to sub-viewport or something? No. Nope. Wonder if there is something strange with getting the mouse position from within the push input function. It's always defaulting to position 0, 0. That's a good thought. However, I am... Oh, wait, man. Wait a minute. Oh, wait. I am printing the mouse position that's coming from the viewport. I think I'm doing that in the right spot. Why is this in agent mode? No. Undo. So, oh, maybe. Yeah, because it's doing another viewport get mouse position here. So what I could do is maybe, let's just try this. Var mouse position. We'll grab it outside of this callable. So equal to instance.get viewport get mouse position. And then we don't need the viewport here. I'll print the mouse position in here. And then I'll pass the mouse position in there. So we're grabbing it outside of this callable. Stored. Nope, that's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So let's see if that works, maybe. Nope, it's not working. And the print statement is printing the proper mouse position. So it was a good thought, but that's not what's happening. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know why this isn't working. What is bothering me is why does it work when it's in the origin, but it doesn't seem to work if it's moved even a little bit off the origin. So if I move it to 1, 1, is it still gonna work? It still works. But now all of a sudden it doesn't work here. Wonder... No, that doesn't make any sense either. I was going to say maybe it has something to do with the mouse filter, but if it was a problem with the mouse filter, I would expect to see the same behavior whether it's at the origin or not. So that the fact that the position is kind of determining whether it works or not, that makes me think that it's a position problem, right? Like, why doesn't it work? It works as soon as I move the mouse, but it doesn't work when I propagate that input event. Got here recently, could you explain what the red box and the red outline are supposed to be doing and how it's not working? I've already explained it several times, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Basically, the red box is the clickable area that's being re-enabled, and the red square that appears is just, that's being rendered as soon as the hover entered signal is being handled. Where is that? So whenever it detects a hover entered, it's adding that just as a visual indicator that it's detected the hover entered. So what I'm expecting to see is that after 2 seconds, this clickable control is going to be re-enabled in terms of its input, and that re-enabling it is going to propagate an input event through the tree for the mouse motion, which is going to trigger the hover entered, hover exited signals. And so when that hover entered is triggered, it's going to print, it's just going to put a color rectangle in the tree. So that way I know that that worked. And so the problem is I want that if my mouse is stationary, when that control becomes re-enabled, I want to see that red square. And it's not working after 2 seconds unless I have it in the corner here. Like so. I don't think it's a problem. I think it's just literally not detecting. If it's moved off the origin even a little bit, it's not working, which is the most baffling part. Is the position you're setting a ratio of the screen and not pixel coordinates? It's coming right from the mouse position with the viewport. It's not a ratio, no, this is not a ratio. This is the mouse position here that's being printed. Although I was saying the position here is supposed to be a ratio. I don't think that the position that I pass in is supposed to be a ratio. I don't think so. The docs don't say that. So if I go to here, input event mouse, position. Mouse's position in the viewport. So it's not a ratio. It's definitely not a ratio. Have you tried in local coordinates, true, false? I have not, but we could try that. Let's see if that works. Oh, did it work? Oh, maybe that's it. Oh, interesting. Let's see. Maybe Levi David Murray solved it. Let's see. Let me read about the in local chords for the push input. Event's position in the embedder's coordinates will be converted to viewport coordinates if in local chords is true. The event's position is in viewport coordinates. The event's position is in the embedder's coordinates. I don't know what that means, but it seems to have worked. So let's just try a little bit more here. I'll move this over here. Hey, look at that. Beautiful. Okay. Thank you for that. So that seems to be working. So now let's actually test it in the real game here and see if that works. So it should be relatively easy to test. Like if I put my mouse here. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Let's try an obelisk. Oh, it's beautiful. Look at that. So you can see this is where it's applicable in my game, right? Like I've got these clickable elements that are coming in, they're being animated, but they're disabled. If they happen to land on a position where the mouse cursor already is, they should be highlighted, right? I don't want to have the player jiggle their mouse to get these to highlight. It's a relatively minor thing, but I think it goes a long way for just making the game feel more reliable. But the big thing that this is going to fix now, hopefully, is the mouse tool or the map tooltips getting stuck, which I will be able to. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Now something else broke. I can no longer drag the map if I start clicking on a node here. Okay. Well, let's just try the tutorial first and see if that works. Game looks great, by the way. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Okay, project settings, skip menu. I'm going to see if I can try to replicate the issue of the map tooltip getting stuck. And I think I can do that pretty easily. So if I put the mouse here. Okay. Oh, it's beautiful. Look at that. So this would have, since my mouse was over top of that node, previously it would have triggered the hover entered because it was just doing a rectangular region check. But now that it's relying on a mouse event propagating through the tree, it knows that there's this dimmer rect over the top of the screen that's interfering or accepting that event. So I've fixed the map tooltip being stuck. Oh, but the dimmer rect went away. Why did that happen? Uh-oh. I broke something else, but I don't think that's related to what I just did. Can dismiss dimmer rect after first combat in tutorial. Actually, I don't really know how much of this is due to the change that I just made. So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and add those, and we're going to stash these changes. Stash stage changes, mouse propagation, enter. So we'll stash those. Let me go back into the game now. Reload from disk, project settings, skip tutorial, skip menu on. Okay. So there's another issue that's going to be encountered here though, which is that I can't click and drag on these either. When did that break? Okay, so it's not due to that change that I just made. It used to be the case that if you were hovering over a node and then you click and drag, you could drag the map. But that is no longer the case. Oh, what could I have possibly broken? It's probably in the clickable control somewhere. Let's see. View file history. How do I view my file history here? File history. Oh, it's probably... Was it this? This mouse filter change? Maybe. Let's see. Let me start up the game again and see. Docs say the embedder coordinates are always set to the top left corner of the screen, so that explains why the 0, 0 position worked. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Oh, look at that. So this is working now. Huh? Wow, how's that working? These are set to stop by default. These are set to stop by default. But these are also configured to click on release. Huh? Okay, well now we have another thing to figure out here. This is kind of crazy. Let me look at my remote scene tree. Run manager, game map, map container, map nodes, this map node. Oh, it's set to pass. Why is that set to pass? Where is that being set to pass? Don't tell me that's in the game map. Okay, well that makes sense. That makes sense. So why is that set to pass? Public override void ready. gd.print. Wait a minute. gd.print mouse filter enum. No. I don't know where those are being set to pass. So pass is going to be 1. I don't know where that's happening. If your boss is holding... Blink if your boss is holding you hostage. Blink, am self-employed. Yeah, why is this pass? Where are these being set to pass? I don't understand that. Where is this map node even being created? Okay. Map node placeholder. Oh. Tricky, tricky. Map container, map node placeholder. This probably has, yep, pass set there. Okay. All right. So I figured it out. Let's do that. And instead of setting pass there, we are going to have to, probably in my clickable control, let's add another export variable here. Export private bool enabled mouse filter. Oh no, not bool. This is going to be mouse filter enum. Well, do I want to do this right now? Hold on. Let's not do this right now. Let's bring my stashed changes back in. I'm just going to delete or close Godot. Okay, we can keep this map container change. That's fine. We're going to discard these changes. And then we are going to do git stash apply. Unstage those. Okay. So then in my clickable control here, we don't need this GD print anymore. We don't need this contain mouse anymore. So that can go away. Export private mouse filter enum. Enabled mouse filter. It's equal to mouse filter enum.stop. And then anywhere we're doing .stop, we're going to do enabled mouse filter. Enabled mouse filter. Ignore is fine. Enabled mouse filter. Okay. So we got this. We're going to get rid of this gd.print here. Those ones. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Let's bring Alchemortis back. So what I need to do now is I need to go to my map container here. This map node placeholder. This mouse filter is stop now, but what I can do after I build here is I can change that here as the default, as the enabled mouse filter. Or not. There we go. Oops, not editable children. Load as placeholder. Okay. Pass by default. Okay. Let's take a gander at that and see if that works. Gonna skip the tutorial. Okay. So now, yep, now I can click on these and drag to move the map. Very cool. And my changes that I made to that mouse propagation should work here. Yes. Okay, beautiful. All of that work just to fix a sticky tooltip issue, but we're here. We're here. All right, let's take a gander at the changes that I've made. Make sure I didn't leave anything debug related in here. Oh, I do have this debug clickable control, so we can get rid of that. Debug clickable control, we can delete these. Don't need those anymore. So that goes away. Map can, yep, so that works. That works. That works. And that works. Okay. All right, so we stage those. Fix sticky map tooltip. I think that should do it because the way that I was handling the mouse detection before was just completely wrong, basically. So I think that works just fine. All right, I've got about 45 minutes until I need to go, so maybe we will do something else. Oh, I need to fix this bug too, so we should probably do that, actually. Can dismiss dimmer rect after first combat in tutorial. So I'm going to have to fix that one, might as well. So again, before we can do the next playtest, basically this to-do list needs to be done. And it looks like a lot, but a lot of these things are very simple. Like, I could probably knock out half this list in like 30 minutes. So we're getting very close. Obviously, I'm going to need to do several rounds of play testing. I'm going to need to make sure that everything is feeling nice and good, nice and tight. But otherwise, yeah, we're getting very close. But give me just 3 minutes here. I'll come back and then we'll spend another 30 minutes or so working on these bugs and getting stuff into the game. But it's there. It's almost there. All right. So give me 3 minutes. I'll be right back and we'll continue on. Hello, I'm back. Hello, TK, or I already said hello to you, but hello again, I guess. Can't ever have enough hellos. Welcome to the stream. Welcome back. Welcome again. What template vault are you using for task tracking in Obsidian? This is the Kanban community plugin. It just gives you Kanban board functionality, and then you can add whatever lanes you want to add to it. Very basic. I just needed something to track tasks. I didn't need it to be super fancy or anything. And the fact that it's, you know, all backed by Markdown is very nice because I just like having my data. So yeah, it's nothing too impressive. So in the tutorial, go to my game debug, enable tutorial here. So if I go into my tutorial, skip, oh, I probably should put skip menu up as well. We don't want to sit through all that stuff. Skip menu. Okay, so we go into the tutorial and I go here and then I go here cool. Alchemy, and then if I close this, oops. So apparently I did I not force the dim on that situation? Let's see, tutorial, guide, alchemy is used to combine. Oh, I didn't. So I think this actually should be pretty straightforward. Force, overlay visible. No, I have that. State pre-begin alchemy. Set force overlay visible. Drawer rect.visible is overlay visible or forced overlay visible. Hide overlay. Is overlay visible equals false. If is overlay force visible or is overlay visible. Else if not is overlay force visible. So why is that? Do I have a logical problem in here? Do you do any unit or functional testing? If so, any particular tools you use for that? No, that's not something that I have done yet for this game. I think there are a couple of areas where it's getting to the point where I may want to look into that, just so that, especially when I start to have, hopefully, buyers of the game on Steam, and I continue to update the game, I want to be confident that the core systems are not changing in terms of their functionality. So that may be something that I do closer to release, is get all that stuff tested, but at the moment, no, I don't have any tools for that. You're welcome. What is the last video game you played, and which is the last you finished? Arc Raiders and Arc Raiders. I don't know if Arc Raiders could ever be considered to be finished, really, but I'm missing like 10 blueprints in Arc Raiders. I've done all the quests. I've literally unlocked everything there is to unlock in the game except for the premium cosmetics. And I've done everything in that game. All the major events, the matriarch, the queen, all that stuff. I've unlocked all the legendary weapons. Oh no, I haven't unlocked all the legendary weapons. I'm missing one legendary weapon. So maybe I'm not finished with Arc Raiders. Maybe I'm not. W game, yeah. Have you done the wipe? No, I didn't do the wipe. So maybe I haven't done everything in that. The last game I truly finished was probably No Rest for the Wicked, if you count beating all of the early access content as finishing the game. And if you don't count that as finishing the game, then probably Sekiro is the last game I finished, truly. Anyway, is overlay visible? So this is overlay force video visible, false. Get rid of this, okay. Wait, is that the... Okay, that was the one, okay. Let me do this again. Is overlay forced visible? Set... overlay, set force overlay visible. I don't know. But yeah, I love Arc Raiders. I think I've always been like multiplayer competitive games have always held my attention more than like single player games. I used to play a lot of League of Legends, for example, thousands upon thousands of hours in that game. But Arc Raiders, yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's perfect. I love it. Perfect is maybe too strong, but one of my favorite games of all time for sure. Okay, is forced overlay visible false? Is forced overlay visible false? True. Okay, so now we're in a state where it's true. So I go here. And if I close this, that is still true. So the dimmer rect.visible should be true. If is overlay force visible or is over, well, both of these are visible, so I close that. Is overlay force visible? Dimmer material dim in. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's after I open the alchemy and I close it. No? Yeah, after I open the alchemy and I close it. Oh, this is just happening too early, I think. So it's not a problem with my logic. That's just happening too early. So this needs to happen all the way. This needs to happen all the way over here. So I was just not covering enough states with that force dimmer. That's the problem. So there was no logical error there. It was just, well, I guess there was. It was just in my state machine. It wasn't in the actual force overlay visible. So I think that should be fixed now. I think that should be fixed. Okay, so now alchemy is used to combine. If I close this again, then it goes back to that state. Okay. That is working properly, and I can't close this while alchemy is happening anyway. So now I close the inventory and that reappears. Perfect. Okay. Excellent. Fix early unforcing of dimmer in tutorial. Perfect. That bug is done. Okay. Remove grid change signal from board inventory component in favor of board state updated. Prevent recalculation of lock cells on every board. I just received a funny text. It's okay. Remove grid change signal. Let's just do this one. This is just some cleanup that I want to do. If I go to my board inventory component, I have this emit signal board state updated as well as grid changed. And the thing is, this is basically happening in lockstep with board state updated. So I think just for my own sanity, I don't think I want to just emit two signals that are coupled together anyway. So let me see where grid changed is being used. Update mouse areas. That's fine. Update tile map visuals. That's not ideal, actually. Oh, this is actually a problem. Well, maybe it's not a huge issue, but the tile map is being updated every time the grid changes. Oh, maybe I don't want to do this. Board state updated. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't make them a single signal. So grid changed is more like if the grid cells are actually changing, like the board size is increasing or decreasing, or the cells are being unlocked on the board. Emit signal board state updated. This is being called whenever a new card gets placed. So as it stands right now, if I merge those into one signal, what would happen is this tile map would redraw, would recreate itself every time a card gets moved, which I probably don't want to do. So I mean, I don't really like the fact that these signals aren't very sensible. Grid change, board state updated, grid change, board state updated, grid change, board state updated, but I guess the grid change does have a specific meaning that I probably want to preserve instead of rolling that into one signal. Okay. I mean, I guess I could clean those up a little bit nicer in some way, but I don't think it makes sense to do that. So delete that. Okay, we fixed that. Not only the fact that it's PvPvE, but also the ambience and the colors. Yeah, the sound design is amazing. I love the whole vibe of the game, the whole theme of the game. I love extraction shooters, and I love, like, the thing about Arc Raiders that's really cool, and I don't know how Embark did it, is they were able to maintain the adrenaline that comes with maybe losing your gear, while also making it casual enough that it's not completely demoralizing, right? Like, I played Tarkov a bunch, and that game was too hardcore for me. Like, I could never get any of the good weapons. I could never get any of the good armor. I died in the overwhelming majority of the raids that I did, and in very few circumstances did I actually kill somebody and take their stuff. But with Arc Raiders, it's like, I don't die as much because there's a higher time to kill. So I'm more competitive in that game. And if I do die, like, it's relatively easy to get back what I lost. And I think that's pretty fun. Never played extraction shooters like Arc Raiders. What makes this one better than other games in the genre? Oh, I think I just, explained that. Also, almost perfect sounds and optimizations. Yeah. Would you want to do an extraction shooter as a next project? Not meaning 3D, but it seems like a genre you dig. It would be fun. I thought we talked about this on stream a little bit ago, but the idea of doing like a necromancer-based extraction, maybe not an extraction shooter, but like an extraction looter, maybe. I actually saw somebody posted on Godot, the Godot subreddit the other day. They're making an ARPG extraction looter, which is kind of cool. So it's like it's like a Diablo 2 kind of isometric perspective with the ARPG skill system and whatnot you'd expect from that genre, but it's wrapped in an extraction looter kind of formula. I thought that was really interesting. And I do think that there's plenty of room to do like single player extraction shooters / looters. So I think that could be a very interesting genre to explore for sure. Crazy well done game in a period where it's a speed run to finish the games for money. Yeah. Tarkov is a war simulator, not a video game. Yeah. Yeah. Tarkov was really, really hard. I did not enjoy Tarkov that much. It was too hardcore for me, but Arc Raiders is super, super fun. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I don't really think I have time to start on any of this other stuff. So I think I'll end the stream there. I've got another thing to do here in 30 minutes, so I'll go get ready for that. But thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you were able to make the bonus stream, and we got a lot done. I'm glad I fixed that mouse issue, and thanks again to all of you for helping me think through and eventually solve that mouse propagation issue. That was very much appreciated. I hope, it's one of those things where, like, that's a critical system in the game where, like, that clickable control is everywhere. So I hope that it's working. It works in my testing. It seems to be fine, but I'm kind of worried that there's going to be a sneaky bug that pops up somewhere. But at least for now, we fixed one sneaky bug, which was that sticky map node tooltip. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. But yeah, we're getting very close to the next playtest being available, and I hope you all enjoy all the massive changes that I've made since then, and we'll see what happens. But first, we have to get through this to-do list. So I'll be back at it tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern if you want to join me for that. Otherwise, I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday when I continue the streams. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.